Summer's here and I feel like driving, headed out to Misquamicut Beach. Sunny days, there's no denying the summer tan's not out of reach. Surf, sun and sand, come and get your tan. Surf, sun and sand, Misquamicut Beach where the ocean meets the sand. Wham bam, surf, sun and sand. Surf, sun, and sand. Come on, get you a tan. Wham, bam. Surf, sun, and sand. Misquamicut Beach where the ocean meets the sand. Wham, bam. Surf, sun, and sand. Surf, sun, and sand. Wham, bam.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Misquamicut Beach Show. My name is Ben Barber. I am your host, and today I am very excited because coming to the Misquamicut Beach Drive-In Movie Theater. It's on loop? Why is this song starting again?
There's no denying the summer tan's not out of reach.
Guys, we're a little bit rusty on this show. We haven't done it in a couple weeks. It's been a busy summer here in Misquamicut. And on August 12th at the drive-in, one of everybody's favorite movies. I mean, I don't know how many times Jaws plays at the drive-in, but it feels like it's every other week, and it's always a packed house. It's definitely the fan favorite for movies to watch at the Beach Drive-In Movie Theater. And the other movie that people love is, of course, Jaws 2, the sequel. And that is coming up once again on August 12th. And we have a very special treat for everybody because before the show, there is a meet and greet with actors Gary Springer and John Dukakis, and they are here with us today. Gary, John, how are you guys?
Great, Ben. And you?
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Have you guys ever been to Misquamicut before?
Sorry, I believe I have. I actually, before Jaws 2, I was going to college in Providence. So I spent a fair amount of time in the rest of the state, but I'm not sure specifically whether I've been there before. But,
oh, man. Where'd you go to college, John?
About a month ago, I was in Boston and driving back, and usually I would take, 90 to 84 back into the city, but I took 95 and decided to swing by Misquamicut, and I loved it. It looked like a great little, summer, seaside town, and the drive-in is right there on the beach practically. So I had never been other than this drive-through about a month ago, but I was very impressed and really got me excited about coming down next week.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. We're literally, the drive-in is directly across from the beach. It's across from, there's several, when people say Misquamicut Beach in Rhode Island, a lot of people think about the state beach, but it's actually a 3-mile long village that has, Misquamicut Beach, Westerly Town Beach, Misquamicut Beach, and then 52 businesses. So it's a wonderful little haven, and not only do people from Rhode Island come every summer, but it's incredibly popular for people in Western Connecticut, Northern Connecticut, and the Massachusetts, like the Springfield side of Massachusetts, the Western side of Massachusetts, and of course New York and stuff come down all the time. So we're excited to have you guys come down next Saturday and to show you a little bit of hospitality and to hear your stories about the filming of Jaws 2. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like? Obviously, Jaws was a massive success, right? And it's Steven Spielberg and all of this stuff. What was it like auditioning and getting the roles in Jaws 2?
John, you want to start?
I will defer to your age before beauty in this case.
Okay. Well, it was great. I was actually living in Hollywood, and I was doing a TV series at Universal called The Hardy Boys, where I played Chet Morton, their roly-poly best friend, who always got into trouble, and they would have to get Chet out of trouble. And one day I was having lunch at the commissary, and I ran into the director, John Hancock, and we were talking, and he said, it's a shame you're tied up doing this series because I'm doing the sequel to Jaws, and there's a part in it you'd be perfect for. And so I quickly called my agent. I said, look, they really don't want me. They just want the two boys. I mean, because I had been in it for a while and I saw the scripts were getting less and less for the other characters, except for Sean and Parker. And so my agent called Universal, and Universal said, sure, we'll transfer them. So they switched me over from the Hardy Boys to Jaws 2. And it was the best thing that could have ever happened in my life because Jaws 2 was just phenomenal. And, we made it in 1977, and most of us are still best friends today, which is unusual for movies. People
Right,
don't.
because it's not like a TV show where it goes on for years. For movies, you only have a couple weeks or months to be together as a cast.
Although in our case, we were together for about 11 months. So,
Oh wow.
which at a kind of pivotal time in our lives, we were teenagers who were kind of just learning about the world, and we were suddenly on a sand spit in Florida for months on end. So we got pretty close. We weren't old enough to rent cars, so we couldn't go. And I think that forced us together in a pretty unusual way that, for many of us, this is kind of our college experience, except it wasn't college. And I think that's, we feel about each other the way we do because of that kind of unusual, whether we felt like we were in a war zone or whatever it was. It obviously was not, but it was quite an experience for us at
Well,
a
it
young
kind
age.
of was. It kind of was a war zone because we were shooting right near Pensacola Air Force Base. So we had the Blue Angels would practice over us, and they knew that there was all these girls in the bikinis on these boats, and so the Blue Angels would come swooping over the ocean and doing their little tricks, and occasionally we'd have an aircraft carrier coming in, and and there were sharks everywhere,
Real sharks.
real
Uh,
sharks.
yeah, I was it as I mentioned before in college in Providence. I had heard about an open audition in Boston, which is where I grew up, and I went once, and they started bringing me to New York because it was it was an ensemble of kids. They wanted to see us together, at least the New York, the kind of East Coast side. So I went down to New York, I think 3 times in the space of a couple of weeks, and was eventually cast. And both Gary and I were kind of in the original group because the aforementioned John Hancock didn't end up shooting the movie. He was we shot for about a month, I think, or even may have been even shorter before they decided to close it down.
We were up on Martha's Vineyard. We started off. We started off in Navarre Beach, Florida, where we had in classrooms we had U.S. sailing instructors, naval sailing instructors. We started off, in maps and things. Then we went to Sunfish in the Intracoastal Waterway, and then quickly went to the boats we were sailing in the movie because we had to look like we've been doing this all our lives. And it was great because we had nothing to do with the movie. They were off doing camera tests and stuff like that, and we were just sailing for a couple of weeks. It was, it was a blast. But we really learned how to be, top class sailors.
Yeah, well, one of the things when we were originally cast, my understanding is they asked all of us whether we already knew how to sail, and all of us lied. And the good news is that they knew we were lying, and so they just went ahead and we really, we had a very intense period of learning how to do this, and because we had to stay as a group, it was there's some challenges in keeping the boats together, particularly since the single hull boats were significantly slower than the catamarans. So there were all kinds of things we had to do, but that took some technical skill, I think, on our part to keep it together.
When I was on a catamaran, I was on a Tornado, which is what the U.S. Olympic team was racing, and they're fiberglass hulls. So every time you touched it, it shattered. And so it was like, uh, we would come in, and if we just grazed the dock, there'd be a crack in the hull. Okay, now you know what you did wrong. You were supposed to do this instead of doing that. All right, let's bring another one in. That's why movies cost so much money. Um,
Right.
but
A lot of
but we
boats.
really we really did learn how to be great sailors. And then, as John was mentioning, we shot for about 3 weeks to a month with John Hancock, and then the studio decided that it just wasn't going right, and they shut it down. And so we all went back to California. Well, we had a month practically, without filming, being paid, which was very nice. Um, and they eventually, after a couple of weeks, they called us back to California. I went back to New York, where I was from. John went back to Boston. And we got there, and we all went to a friend of ours, Ann Dusenberry, who was in the movie, who lived just outside of Universal. And we all kind of congregated in her house, and then one by one we were called into Universal. So we would look at each other. It was like the sword of Damocles hanging over your head. We would look at each other, and then some people would come back, go, yes, I'm still in, and others would come back crying and like, no, they left me out. But John and I were among the lucky ones who they kept from the first part of Jaws to the second, which was now directed by a man named Jeannot Swart. And he and Spielberg were actually partners in Universal. They shared offices with Verna Fields, and Verna was the great person who cut Jaws, the original Jaws.
For which
When
he won an Academy Award deservedly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Right.
and and Stephen and Jeannot both were working on like the Twilight Zones and the
Night
and
Gallery. Yeah.
yeah, Night Galleries and the Twilight Zones together. So then Jeannot was chosen to be the director of Jaws 2 Part 2. And so we started filming again. We all of a sudden, those of us went down to Florida, and it was fun because they had to teach the new kids how to sail. So the old kids, us, they just said, "Okay, go out, have fun." So we would get in our boats every day and just go cruising around, and that was for a couple of weeks of just playing. Um, so eventually, we started working on the movie, which was quite an exciting thrill.
What was it like coming into this? It had been a few years since Jaws had debuted, and obviously, not all of the original cast was coming back, and you have a different director, and it's not Steven Spielberg. Was Steven Spielberg like Steven Spielberg in 1977 yet, or was like
But
like
I mean, because of Jaws, he had
because of
established
Jaws, right?
himself as a very heavy hitter.
So,
Um,
so what was it like coming into a this like established franchise? Like, that's getting a big break in a movie is one thing, but getting a big break in a movie that's a sequel to, one of the biggest movies of the decade, and would prove to stand the test of time. Gary, I know that you had some experience with coming into something that was already a success, being a guest star on Happy Days and MASH and stuff before Jaws. And John, this was sort of your like first big thing. Did it feel any pressure of like we need to nail this? We need to preserve. Like, was there pressure being in the sequel of such a massive hit?
I mean, it was, yes, not really, not for us, um, you know, but there was always that in the back of your mind. I mean, it lifted the excitement about being a part of it. Um, I never felt pressure whether or not it was going to be better, worse, whatever. We just went out and did it. But just to be a part of that phenomena was exciting and great.
yeah, I think we were a little too young and dumb to know that this to feel that pressure, and this is kind of there weren't a lot of franchises at that point. There were, there was an occasional sequel that popped up, but not this was not a Marvel brand. And nobody knew whether it was it's funny that we got scripts very early on where they were going to call it More Jaws. That was the name on it. So which they wisely decided was not a good idea. but I don't think anybody knew whether you could do it again, whether you could create magic in a bottle again. So and I'd never been on a movie set. I'd never been on a TV set other than watching a political commercial shot. So it was we had our hands full, and we were 18, 19 years old at the time. So yeah, I don't
I was 22. I was the old fart.
Well,
But I was
very
playing.
old.
I was playing 15.
Right.
Yeah.
How did so obviously, John, you went on to guest star in shows like Heart to Heart and Lou Grant, which I would love to ask you about at Asner for 5 hours about being in that. Family Ties, stuff like that. Little House on the Prairie, Knots Landing, Taxi, which again that was my favorite show as a child. Um, uh, what was this like a fantastic foundation? Obviously, like going into a TV show for an episode or a little arc, and being on a movie set are two semi pretty different things, or could be different things, but also 11 months on a movie set is very abnormal. So
Yes, it is.
did this experience, like, sort of, and the brotherhood and stuff that you that you made with your castmates and stuff, did that was it like hard to replicate that going forward?
I think it was impossible to replicate it. I certainly had other experiences where on movie locations for a while where you feel a kind of kinship because at the time that it's going on, no one else really understands what you're going through except those who are participating in it. But I don't think I can only speak for myself, but I never had another experience like Jaws 2 that was that long and where the relationships were so solid as a result of it. It's pretty amazing. There are a bunch of us, as Gary mentioned earlier, that still now with the advent of texting, have a group chat that we really are in every day. So that I never had another experience exactly like that.
It's there wasn't, as John said, there isn't an experience like that. I mean, I did like 3 or 4 films before I did Jaws and projects, and whenever you see the people afterwards, it's always hugs and hi, how are you? But that's it. It's like there's that familiarity that we went through, as John said, almost a war. But it's like only in one instance, I did a movie called Bernice Bobs Her Hair with Shelley Duvall and Bud Cort and Dennis Christopher. And Shelley and Dennis are still among my best friends. And that was back in that was before Jaws. It was like 70, 75, 76, something like that. But it's very rare, but you always have those relationships, and it's like you'll see people and you hug and you have a great time, but nothing like what happened with us.
Right. Yeah. So I'm very excited. We all love watching Jaws 2. Do you guys still love watching it so many years later?
It's on a lot. We watch it. All of a sudden, I'll get nudged. Guess what's on? Guess what's on?
It's fun. I mean, I think for us, it's like a photo album of kind of where we were at that point in our lives. We, I there was a while where it's like I look exactly the same. And then you kind of take a little break and realize we've aged just a little bit.
Not much.
But one of the things I'm curious about is this drive-in by the beach.
Yes.
In which you play movies that are known to keep people from going in the water. That's such an interesting phenomenon to me.
Listen,
That's true.
I know. I know. There's two crowds of people. There's the overwhelming majority of people who are like, I want to watch Jaws, at the beach, and there's another group of people that are that are the minority that are like, why would you play that here? But it hasn't deterred anybody. Misquamicut's
I
as
think it's
busy as
great.
ever, but it's sort of a fun, it's sort of a fun thing. Also, the movies, because they're a drive-in, so you can't start until the sun goes down. It's like 9 o'clock. People are done with the water for the day. It's fine. If we were showing the movie at like 9 a.m. when the beach is full, maybe that would, maybe you'd be like, if you had to go directly from the movie over to go swimming, maybe you'd be a little hesitant. But by the next morning, people forget about it.
Got it.
But no, it's the most massive, and I think one of the last couple summers, Jaws was being re-released, or there was a special edition or something, and it wasn't able to be licensed for drive-in movies and stuff for I think a year, and everybody asked, "Where's Jaws this year? How come you're not playing Jaws?" So, yeah, people love Jaws. They love Jaws 2. This is, I believe, the second time that we've shown Jaws 2. I think 4th of July weekend we had one after another. And it was full every night. People can't get enough of it, and everybody's really excited to come down and meet you guys next Saturday, August 12th. What can people expect when they come to the meet and greet and Q&A?
Brilliance.
Charisma. Stories.
Yes, great stories. Actually, you know what's interesting talking about the Jaws phenomena? Jeffrey Kramer, who played Deputy Hendricks in the first Jaws and in Jaws 2, is coming to my house tonight. He lives on the Vineyard. He spends his summers on the Vineyard, and on Monday we're going to the Broadway show, The Shark is Broken, which is a show on Broadway written by Ian Shaw, Robert Shaw's son. And it really just features, the Hooper character, the Brody character, and the Quint character in this play. And so the phenomena just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, I can't see it. Wish I could see it this weekend. It looks like a great show. Yeah.
That's incredible. Please tell us about your experience next week when we see you in person here at the beach.
Absolutely. I can't wait to come down there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gary and John. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys next Saturday at the Misquamicut Beach Drive-In Theater. Get your tickets now at mbadrivein.com. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you next week at the beach.
Bye, Ben. Thank you.
Look forward to it. Take care.
Thank you.
See you soon.
All right, guys. Amazing actors, amazing people. I'm very excited to get to meet them in person this Saturday. A week from today, Saturday, August 12th at the Drive-In Theater. Get your tickets at mbadrivein.com. Click the link in the description. And that's it. We have movies, Wednesday through Sunday, every single night. Tons of stuff to do in Misquamicut. Check out misquamicut.org. Also link in the description. And that's it. We'll see you at the beach.
Hey everybody, it's Avery Movie with some do's and don'ts when you come visit the Misquamicut Drive-In Movie Theater. Do buy your tickets online. Don't bring cash. Do pull up to the stop sign for assistance. Don't park yourself. Do throw your trash in the waste receptacles. Don't be a litter bug. Do turn your lights off. Don't be inconsiderate. Do talk quietly during the movie. Don't yell! Do come to our concession stand to get some delicious goodies. Don't order delivery. Do buy our sick merch so you can look just like me. Don't commit identity theft. It's a serious crime. And remember, do have fun when you come to visit the Misquamicut Drive-In Movie Theater.